John Wilkes Booth. John Wilkes Booth was born on May 10, 1838 in Bel Air, Maryland. He grew up in a family of actors. His father, Junius Brutus Booth, was a famous Shakespearean performer, and his brother Edwin became one of the greatest actors of the century. John followed in their footsteps and became a celebrated actor himself, especially admired in the South for his charm and stage presence. But Booth's story took a dark turn. Fiercely loyal to the Confederacy, he hated Abraham Lincoln and despised the Union victory. On April 14, 1865, while Lincoln was watching a play at Ford's Theater, Booth snuck into the presidential box, shot him in the back of the head, and escaped across the stage. Lincoln's assassination shocked the nation, and Booth instantly became the most wanted man in America. After nearly 2 weeks on the run, he was cornered in a barn in Virginia. On April 26, 1865, Union soldiers killed him. Though once a rising star of the theater, Booth is remembered only for one thing: the man who murdered Abraham Lincoln, Roman Polanski. Roman Polanski was born in Paris in 1933, but his childhood was anything but easy. During World War II, his Jewish family was forced into the Krakow ghetto. His mother was killed at Auschwitz, though his father survived. After the war, Polanski studied filmmaking in Poland and quickly built a reputation as a visionary director. In the 60s and 70s, he made international hits like Rosemary's Baby and Chinatown, becoming one of Hollywood's most respected filmmakers. But in 1977, his world came crashing down when he was arrested for drugging and sexually assaulting a 13-year-old girl at Jack Nicholson's house. He pled guilty to unlawful sex with a minor but fled the United States before sentencing, fearing the judge would send him to prison. Polanski has lived in Europe ever since, continuing to make films like The Pianist, which won him an Academy Award. But he remains a fugitive from U.S. justice. His story is one of both brilliance and infamy, a celebrated filmmaker whose career is forever overshadowed by his crime. Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg was born on June 5, 1971 in Boston, Massachusetts, the youngest of 9 kids. His childhood was rough. By his early teens, he was dropping out of school, using drugs, and getting into violent trouble. At just 16 years old in 1988, Wahlberg attacked 2 Vietnamese men in a racially motivated assault. He was charged with attempted murder but pled guilty to assault instead, serving only 45 days of a 2-year sentence. Despite that dark past, Wahlberg managed to reinvent himself. In the 90s, he shot to fame as Marky Mark, leading the hip-hop group Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. From there, he pivoted to acting, with breakout roles in Boogie Nights, The Departed, and Transformers. Though his career became hugely successful, his violent past has never been forgotten. In 2014, he even sought a pardon but later said he regretted asking. Today, Wahlberg is a Hollywood star and businessman, his story often seen as one of redemption, though not without controversy. Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was born on June 30, 1966 in Brooklyn, New York. Growing up poor and troubled, he was arrested numerous times as a kid. But everything changed when legendary trainer Cus D'Amato took him in and molded him into a fighter. By 20, Tyson was the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history. With devastating power and speed, he dominated the ring and became one of the most feared athletes in the world. But his personal life unraveled. In 1992, Tyson was convicted of raping 18-year-old Desiree Washington. He served nearly 3 years in prison before returning to boxing. His comeback was dramatic, but so were his scandals, from biting Evander Holyfield's ear in 1997 to filing for bankruptcy. In later years, Tyson softened his public image through acting, business, and even comedy, becoming a surprising pop culture figure. He's remembered both as one of the greatest boxers ever and one of the most controversial athletes in history. Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur was born on June 16, 1971 in New York City. He was raised by his mother, Afeni Shakur, a former Black Panther. Growing up, his childhood was politically charged but financially unstable. He moved often, between New York, Baltimore, and California, and along the way he developed a love for poetry and acting before eventually turning his focus to music. By the early 1990s, Tupac was making waves as a rapper. Known for his powerful lyrics that spoke about poverty, racial injustice, and life in America's inner cities. Albums like Me Against the World and All Eyes on Me made him one of hip-hop's greatest and most influential artists. But as his music career soared, his life outside the studio was filled with controversy. In 1994, he was shot 5 times during a robbery at a New York recording studio, an event that only deepened the East Coast-West Coast rap feud. The following year, he was convicted of sexual abuse after a woman accused him of assaulting her in a hotel room. He was sentenced to up to 4.5 years in prison, but served just 9 months before death row records. Suge Knight helped post his bail. Tupac's legal troubles, along with his role in the East Coast-West Coast rivalry, shaped him into both a rebellious icon and a tragic figure. Then on September 7, 1996, while riding in Las Vegas, he was gunned down in a drive-by shooting. He died 6 days later at just 25 years old. His murder was never solved, adding mystery to his already larger-than-life story. Today, Tupac is remembered as one of the most influential rappers of all time, an artist whose criminal past and turbulent life became inseparable from his music and his legacy. O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson was born in San Francisco in 1947 and became a football superstar, winning the Heisman Trophy and dominating the NFL as a running back. After sports, he transitioned into acting and broadcasting, becoming a household name. But everything changed in 1994, when Simpson was charged with the murders of his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman. His trial became a national obsession, televised and debated endlessly. In 1995, he was acquitted, though many believed he was guilty. Years later, in 2007, Simpson was arrested for armed robbery in Las Vegas and sentenced to prison. He served 9 years before being released in 2017. O.J.'s story is one of fame, scandal, and lasting controversy. Once a hero, now a symbol of one of the most divisive trials in American history. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein, born in 1953, was a wealthy financier who moved in elite circles, befriending politicians, royals, and celebrities. But beneath the wealth and connections was a dark truth. Epstein ran a sex trafficking ring, exploiting underage girls. He had already faced charges in 2008 and struck a controversial plea deal that kept him out of serious prison time. In 2019, he was arrested again. But before his trial could begin, Epstein died in jail. His death was ruled a suicide, though conspiracy theories continued to swirl. Epstein's name is now synonymous with scandal, abuse, and questions that may never be fully answered. Chris Brown was born on May 5, 1989 in Tappahannock, Virginia. Growing up in that small town, he discovered a love for music pretty early on. He was drawn to R&B and hip-hop, and it didn't take long before his natural gift for singing and dancing started to stand out. As a teenager, that raw talent caught the attention of a record label, and by 2005, he dropped his self-titled debut album. That album blew up. Songs like Run It made him an instant teen sensation, and people were quick to compare him to Usher and even Michael Jackson. Over the years, Chris carved out a solid place in the music industry with hit records and electrifying live performances. But in 2009, everything changed. The night before the Grammy Awards, Chris was arrested for physically assaulting his then-girlfriend, pop star Rihanna. When the story broke, and especially when photos of Rihanna's injuries went public, the reaction was immediate and intense. He was charged with felony assault and making criminal threats. Chris eventually pleaded guilty, and the court handed him 5 years of probation, community service, and mandatory domestic violence counseling. The fallout dragged on for years. He ran into more legal problems, probation violations, and fresh accusations of violence. Public opinion was deeply divided. Some people completely condemned him, while others defended him or chose to forgive. His career definitely took hits. Endorsements dropped, radio stations pulled his songs, and his image took a beating. Even with all that, Chris kept putting out music that sold well and charted. He stayed in the spotlight, though not always for the right reasons. Later controversies, more fights, more accusations, kept his name tied up in headlines. Today, Chris Brown is still active in music and remains a major figure in the industry. His talent isn't really up for debate, but that 2009 assault, and everything that came after it, continues to cast a long shadow over his legacy. Ian Watkins. Ian Watkins was born on July 30, 1977, in Merthyr Tydfil, Wales, and grew up in the nearby town of Pontypridd. From a young age, Ian had a passion for music, though he also studied graphic design at the University of Wales. In 1997, he co-founded the rock band Lost Prophets, taking the role of lead vocalist. The group quickly rose to fame in the early 2000s with songs like Last Train Home and Rooftops. They built a loyal fan base, gained critical recognition, and for a while became one of the most well-known British acts of their time. As the frontman, Watkins was charismatic and energetic, and he played a huge part in the band's success. But in 2012, everything unraveled. Watkins was arrested and charged with multiple child sex offenses. The investigation that followed uncovered horrifying crimes, among them the sexual assault of a baby, child abuse, and possession of extremely graphic material. Authorities revealed that Watkins used his celebrity status to manipulate and exploit fans, some of whom became directly involved in his crimes. The news shocked the music world. Lost Prophets disbanded immediately, and in November 2013, Watkins pled guilty to numerous charges. The following month, he was sentenced to 35 years in prison. The case was met with widespread outrage and disgust. Former fans, his bandmates, and the general public completely turned their backs on him. His actions not only destroyed his reputation, but also left a permanent stain on the band's legacy. Lost Prophets music was pulled from streaming services and radio stations, with many refusing to play or promote it at all. Today, Ian Watkins remains in a high-security prison. His crimes are considered some of the most disturbing ever committed by a public figure, and his downfall serves as a chilling reminder of how fame can be abused in the worst possible way. Aaron Hernandez. Aaron Hernandez was born on November 6, 1989, in Bristol, Connecticut. Growing up in a middle-class home, Aaron stood out as a gifted athlete in high school. He went on to play college football at the University of Florida, where he helped the team win a national championship. His talent as a tight end caught the attention of the NFL, and in 2010 he was drafted by the New England Patriots. Hernandez quickly became a key part of their offense, and in 2012 he was rewarded with a $40 million contract, cementing his status as one of the league's rising stars. But behind the success, his personal life was troubled. He was known for violent behavior and alleged gang ties. On June 26, 2013, everything came crashing down when he was arrested for the killing of Odin Lloyd, a semi-professional football player who was dating the sister of Hernandez's fiancée. Lloyd had been found shot multiple times in an industrial park not far from Hernandez's home in Massachusetts. The investigation moved fast, and Hernandez was charged with first-degree murder. His trial stretched from 2014 into 2015, and in April of that year, he was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Further investigations linked him to other violent incidents, including a 2012 double homicide in Boston. Though he was later acquitted of those charges in 2017, just days after that acquittal, he was found dead in his prison cell on April 19, 2017. Authorities ruled it an apparent suicide. After his death, shocking revelations came to light. Examinations revealed that Hernandez had been suffering from severe CTE, a degenerative brain disease caused by repeated head trauma, which is common among football players. Aaron Hernandez's story remains one of the most shocking downfalls in sports history. His legacy is forever scarred by his violent crimes, while also raising difficult questions about CTE, mental health, and the culture of violence that surrounds professional football. Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby was born on July 12, 1937 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Growing up in a working-class family, Bill showed a gift for storytelling and comedy early on. After serving in the U.S. Navy, he decided to pursue stand-up comedy, and by the 1960s he was already making a name for himself. His success opened the door to television, where he became best known for The Cosby Show. On that series, he played Dr. Heathcliff Huxtable, the lovable head of a successful black family. The show turned him into a household name and one of America's most beloved father figures. Beyond television, he was also known for promoting education, family values, and uplifting messages. But Cosby's image came crashing down when dozens of women accused him of sexual assault, with allegations stretching back decades. Rumors had been around for years, but the conversation reignited in 2014 when comedian Hannibal Buress called him out publicly. After that, more and more women stepped forward, sharing similar stories, many involving drugs and assault. The legal case that stuck centered on Andrea Constand, who accused Cosby of drugging and assaulting her in 2004. In 2015, he was formally charged. After a mistrial in 2017, Cosby was convicted the following year on 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault. He was sentenced to serve 3 to 10 years in prison. Public reaction was sharply divided. For some, his conviction was a milestone in the Me Too movement. For others, it was hard to reconcile the crimes with the man who once played America's dad. Cosby served nearly 3 years before his conviction was overturned in 2021 due to a procedural issue. Even though he's legally free today, his reputation is destroyed. Once celebrated as a pioneer and role model in entertainment, Bill Cosby is now remembered as one of the most infamous figures in Hollywood, with a legacy permanently overshadowed by his criminal actions. Daniel Hernandez, 6X99. Daniel Hernandez, better known by his stage name 6699 or Tekashi 69, was born on May 8, 1996, in Brooklyn, New York. Growing up in a tough neighborhood, Daniel faced hardships early on, including the tragic killing of his father when he was just a child. He eventually dropped out of school and worked odd jobs before turning his focus to music. By 2017, he blew up online with his aggressive rap style, rainbow-colored hair, and over-the-top persona. His breakout single Gummo made him a rising star in hip-hop. At the same time, his wild social media antics, constant feuds, and ties to street gangs made him one of the most polarizing figures in the industry. But his connections to the 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods, a violent street gang, landed him in serious legal trouble. In 2018, he was arrested on federal racketeering and firearms charges along with other gang members. Prosecutors accused him of being involved in shootings, robberies, and even drug trafficking. Facing a possible life sentence, 6X99 chose to cooperate with authorities. He testified against his former associates, and while that cooperation, labeled by many as snitching, earned him a reduced sentence, it also made him a target in the hip-hop world. In 2019, he pleaded guilty to several charges and was sentenced to 2 years in prison. But because of his testimony in the COVID-19 pandemic, he was released early in 2020. After his release, he tried to stage a comeback. He dropped new music and even leaned into his informant reputation, though the rap community was deeply divided. Some fans still supported him, while many others completely turned their backs on him. Today, Daniel Hernandez is still active in music, but his legacy is permanently tied to his criminal past, his gang connections, and his decision to cooperate with law enforcement. Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein was born on March 19, 1952, in Queens, New York. Growing up in a middle-class Jewish family, Harvey developed a passion for movies and entertainment early on. Along with his brother Bob, he co-founded Miramax, a film distribution company that would eventually turn into a powerhouse of independent cinema during the 1990s. By that time, Weinstein had cemented himself as one of Hollywood's most influential producers, backing films like Pulp Fiction, Shakespeare in Love, and Good Will Hunting. His success brought him multiple Academy Awards and gave him enormous power in the industry. But in 2017, everything unraveled. Investigative reports from the New York Times and the New Yorker revealed decades of sexual misconduct. Dozens of women, including well-known actresses, accused Weinstein of harassment, assault, and rape. The allegations stretched back over 30 years, with victims describing a consistent pattern of coercion, threats, and abuse of power. The revelations ignited the Me Too movement, giving survivors around the world the courage to come forward with their own stories. Legal action followed quickly. In 2018, Weinstein was arrested and charged with multiple counts of sexual assault and rape. His trial began in early 2020, and by February he was convicted of rape in the 3rd degree and a criminal sexual act in the first degree. He was sentenced to 23 years in prison. Even after that, the legal battles continued. In 2022, he faced additional charges in Los Angeles and was convicted again, receiving another 16-year sentence. Weinstein's downfall was a turning point in Hollywood, forcing the industry to confront systemic abuse and demand greater accountability from powerful figures. Once celebrated as a trailblazing producer, Harvey Weinstein is now remembered as one of the most reviled figures in entertainment history. Today, he remains in prison, his legacy permanently destroyed by his crimes. R. Kelly Robert Sylvester Kelly, better known as R. Kelly, was born on January 8, 1967, in Chicago, Illinois. Growing up in a low-income household, Robert faced serious hardships, including allegations of abuse during his childhood. Despite those struggles, he showed incredible musical talent, especially in singing and songwriting. By the early 1990s, he had risen to fame with a string of hits that cemented him as one of the biggest names in R&B. His gift for crafting chart-topping songs made him a household name and one of the most dominant forces in the music industry. But troubling allegations surrounded him for decades. Rumors of inappropriate relationships with underage girls first surfaced in the 1990s, including his illegal marriage to singer Aaliyah when she was only 15. In 2002, a videotape allegedly showing Kelly with a minor led to charges of child pornography. After a long trial, he was acquitted in 2008 when the victim refused to testify. Even though he avoided conviction for years, the accusations never went away. In 2019, the documentary Surviving R. Kelly brought his alleged history of abuse, coercion, and trafficking back into the spotlight. Public outrage reignited, and that same year he was arrested on multiple federal charges, including racketeering and sex trafficking. In 2021, after a trial in New York, Kelly was convicted and sentenced to 30 years in prison. The following year, a separate trial in Chicago led to additional convictions, adding another 20 years to his sentence. Once celebrated as an R&B legend, R. Kelly's legacy is now completely overshadowed by his crimes. His downfall remains one of the most high-profile cases of the Me Too era, and today, he sits in prison with a reputation forever shattered. Diddy Sean Combs, who the world knows as Diddy, was born on November 4, 1969, in Harlem, New York City. When Sean was just a toddler, his father was killed, leaving his mother, Janice, to raise him on her own. She worked tirelessly, instilling in him a strong sense of drive and work ethic. He went on to attend Howard University but left early to chase a career in music. That decision paid off. He quickly rose through the ranks of the hip-hop world. As the founder of Bad Boy Records, he played a massive role in launching careers like the Notorious B.I.G. Beyond music, he built an empire with fashion, acting, and producing, becoming one of the most recognizable figures in entertainment. But over time, Diddy's career has been overshadowed by serious allegations. In 2017, his former personal chef accused him of harassment in a lawsuit that was later settled. Then in 2023, his former girlfriend Cassie Ventura filed a lawsuit accusing him of abuse and trafficking, though it too was settled quickly. Not long after, more lawsuits followed, accusing him of sexual assault and even distributing intimate images without consent. Things took a darker turn in May 2024 when surveillance footage surfaced, showing him physically assaulting Cassie back in 2016. He issued public apologies, but the damage was done. Later that year in September, Diddy was arrested on federal charges including racketeering, sex trafficking, and transporting women for prostitution. Prosecutors described it as a criminal enterprise led by him that exploited women through violence and intimidation. As of March 2025, he remains behind bars at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, denied bail multiple times. His trial is set to begin on May 12th, with jury selection starting a week earlier. If convicted, he could spend the rest of his life in prison. Once celebrated as a music mogul and cultural icon, Diddy's reputation has been shattered. Today his name is tied less to music and business success and more to accusations of exploitation and abuse, a stunning and tragic fall from grace.